flying Ryanair. Last year, over 90% of our flights arrived on time. We hope you enjoyed yours, and we look forward to welcoming you on board again soon. Ryanair. Low fares, made simple.
This is our group's presentations on I-Hao Liao. During this presentation, we will be exploring how he managed a situation effectively as a leader based on the trial approach, and then we'll be discussing a situation that he did not manage effectively while drawing on emotional intelligence as a theory framework. I-Hao Liao is the CEO of Ryanair and the wealthiest businessman in Ireland. He is well known for developing the low-cost ideal of Ryanair back in 2001. He also has a reputation of being hurried, harried, impatient, highly driven, and hugely competitive. He can also be seen as charismatic, enduring, and comical leader. I-Hao Liao and Ryanair faces issues such as major cost concern, the direct competition with EasyJet, problems with staffing that leads to a huge amount of flight cancellations in the past year, perceptions and publicity issues, and macroeconomic issues such as the rising fuel prices.
All literature regarding Ryanair in the lead up to 2014 has expressed how poor their customer service is. Weston wrote in his textbook of leadership that Ryanair had become a byword for appalling customer service, misleading advertising, and jeering rudeness towards anyone or anything that got in their way. The trait approach to leadership has developed extensively over the years. Originally, it focused on innate or distal characteristics that someone had. It was seen that these were the determinants of whether an individual would be an effective leader. As time has progressed, literature has moved forwards towards what trait a leader has that could be called malleable or a proximal trait. You can see from this slide that we'll be looking at one distal and one proximal trait. We will be focusing on more recent studies of the trait theory with O'Leary, as we understand that in this ever-changing business environment, to merely be a man, as Mann suggested in 1959, is not enough to make you an effective leader in this present day.
In 2014, the introduction of the Always Getting Better programme was a rebrand Ryanair needed in order to develop the satisfaction levels of their customer service. O'Leary had realised he had taken cost-cutting to such an extreme extent that his major competitor EasyJet, who also have a low-cost business model, was starting to catch up with Ryanair due to their better level of customer service. O'Leary's rebrand made good customer service paramount throughout the organisation, and smiling and being nice became key performance indicators. The programme revolved around fixing the things that their customers didn't like, which has proved effective as profits continue to rise.
Recent studies and approaches to trait theory have found that it is the ability to learn and adapt to change that has proved to be a very important success factor. O'Leary displays this proximal trait within this example. Having led Ryanair since 2001 with cost-cutting, poor customer service style in the business, he now has had to adapt to the change in his environment and learn how to respond to new customer demand for higher customer service standards. Hunt in 1991 suggests that the skill to lead an organisation with a stable and supportive environment are not the same as the skills needed to lead an organisation facing a turbulent and competitive environment. This shows O'Leary's efficiency as a leader as he managed Ryanair from 2001 to 2014 when conditions were stable, but was also able to manage Ryanair effectively after the rebranding. This is shown here by his yearly profits continuing to grow. By looking at profits as a measure of leadership effectiveness, we are classifying O'Leary's followers in this example as his shareholders. Shareholders tend to be most concerned about making a profit, and with O'Leary continuing to do so, having used his ability to adapt to change in demand, it also reinstates his effectiveness in the eyes of his followers. Confidence has been widely categorised through the evolution of the trait theory, so we believe it is important to examine why, as you can see here. The leadership effectiveness of O'Leary in this situation can be understood by examining how this trait affected his behaviour. Paglis and Green said that confident leaders are more likely to take initiative to solve problems and introduce desirable change. It is also said that leaders with high self-confidence are more likely to be decisive in a crisis and deal with it more effectively. O'Leary had the confidence to change his customer strategy that had stood in place for many years to solve the issue of EasyJet potentially capturing more market share, and he brought about the desired change to continue turning a profit. The situation in its infancy could have been classed as a crisis for a low-budget airline, as they have no movement on price, so something needed to change. With O'Leary's confidence, he effectively managed Ryanair through what could have been a very turbulent time. If O'Leary had lacked self-confidence when dealing with the rebranding, he may have made his decisions slower, allowing EasyJet more time to catch up with them, and with less conviction planting seeds of doubt in the mind of his followers. All this would have ultimately meant EasyJet becoming a more predominant player in the aviation market and causing O'Leary's followers, the shareholders still in this example, to have lost loyalty to O'Leary and lacked the return on the investment that they had enjoyed in previous years. Yuckle sums up that some traits and skills increase the likelihood that a leader can be effective, but this cannot guarantee the success. A leader in one situation can be effective and ineffective in another. This is shown in our analysis of O'Leary in a successful situation and now the unsuccessful one.
Ryanair has been riddled with strikes and employee complaints about their working conditions. September 2018 saw Ryanair cancel 250 flights as strikes hit tens of thousands. Pilots and crew went on strike, this time due to their contracts falling under Irish law and not under the law of their country of residence. This impacted their ability to access social and security benefits in their home countries. EU Social Affairs Commissioner Marianne Thyssen told O'Leary that respecting EU law is not something over which workers should have to negotiate. This is not an academic debate, but about concrete social rights of workers. This sharp tone is not surprising, as O'Leary has been quoted calling the European Commissioners morons. His inability to solve the issue within Ryanair before strikes occurring is an example of lack of emotional intelligence. There is no doubt this could have been handled more tactfully. The followers we look at in this example are the pilots and crew, which are defined as low in the hierarchy and have less power, authority and influence than their superiors.
Emotional intelligence refers to an ability to recognise emotions and to problem solving based on the understanding and management of them. Goleman's theory of emotional intelligence is made up of 5 main components, these being self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy and social skill. Here is a situational evaluation on Michael O'Leary of his emotional intelligence in relation to the Goleman's 5 components. When evaluating the 5 components, we discovered O'Leary was of a low to average level with an analysis shown in the right column. According to Goleman, to be emotionally intelligent, O'Leary would need these components to be of a high level. He also suggests emotional intelligence is a different way of being smart, and that your ability to lead is altered through the way relationships and emotions are handled. If O'Leary possessed emotional intelligence, it would not only benefit his followers, but also himself. Leaders high on using emotion may be able to encourage open-minded decision-making. In this situation, it would be ideal to find a peaceful negotiation between the followers, the organisation's best interests and the EU. If O'Leary is to improve his emotional intelligence, he must do some self-evaluation. There are, however, lots of easy tips to help him do this. We imagine this isn't something he will have done for a very long time. Being the CEO of Europe's #1 airline, he probably thinks he does not need to keep self-evaluating. No matter how successful a leader is, there is always room for improvement. You cannot stay static in this evolving industry. Only a small amount of time each day is needed to improve emotional intelligence. It will have huge benefits, not only for O'Leary himself, but also for his followers and profits. O'Leary's self-awareness can be improved by keeping a journal and writing down thoughts, as this promotes a higher level of self-awareness. Slowing down when strong emotions are experienced would allow time to examine why and understand the emotions he is feeling. To work on his self-regulation, he must understand his values and examine his code of ethics. By understanding this, he won't need to think twice when it comes to moral or ethical decisions, as he will make the right choice. O'Leary needs to practice being calm. Awareness of how he acts is crucial, and he can practice this through deep breathing or to stay calm in this situation. He may choose to write his emotions on a piece of paper and then dispose of it, as he will find that is much less damaging than speaking them aloud. For motivation, O'Leary needs to set himself some goals of what he wishes to achieve by re-examining where he is now and where he wants to go. Working on his empathy can be done by putting himself in other people's shoes. This can best be achieved by speaking openly with his followers and creating a safe space for discussions. He needs to practice responding to feelings and giving praise when it is needed. Social skills also need some work for O'Leary. The key point that he must focus on is conflict resolution. This includes learning to acknowledge the situation by preparing for resolution and understanding the situation, which will be simultaneously worked on when he works on his empathy. He must learn to reach a resolution that is beneficial for all, not just himself. All 5 components of emotional intelligence tie in with each other, so more than one component can be worked on at one time.
If O'Leary had emotional intelligence, this example could have been used as an effective display of leadership rather than an ineffective one. O'Leary would have created an environment that followers felt free to express their concerns and safe in the knowledge O'Leary would understand and be empathetic and respond encouragingly. Followers would not have felt the need to strike rather than peaceful discussions could have taken place. His understanding of the wider environment he operates in would have meant he went into a peaceful negotiations with the EU over their contracts. It could have been used as positive, free publicity to show that Ryanair really is getting better. We believe emotional intelligence is a hidden competitive advantage, and if O'Leary were to show optimism that he is taking their emotions seriously, considering their needs, and portraying some positivity as a leader in this situation, it could lead to emotional contagion. Emotional contagion can enhance group cooperation and result in fewer conflict and problems for O'Leary. Additionally, some self-control is needed to restrain himself from just saying what he thinks impulsively and making unprofessional statements about people in their industry. As a leader, people follow, and things need to change if O'Leary is to build up a sense of a team within Ryanair. During this assignment, we have learnt many things about the dynamism of leadership. Displayed on the screen now are some of the key things we have learnt. First of all, leaders possess characteristics from varied leadership approaches rather than exclusively falling under just one approach or theory. For example, O'Leary maintained a good level of confidence with his Always Getting Better campaign. However, his confidence is detrimental in the crew strikes. Secondly, it can be difficult to classify a leader as purely successful. It has been shown that to become a good leader, you must learn from your mistakes, and therefore a leader does not always handle every situation effectively. What some groups of followers may deem as an effective leader could possibly be seen differently from another group of followers. For example, shareholders may have found the Always Getting Better campaign as being effective for cost reasons, but his crew may have different views on this as they would have to adapt new methods and practices. Finally, literature on leadership is constantly evolving, and the traits and approaches to leadership are evident in everyday life, not just in organisations. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you for your attention. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight.